Hello everybody, Sergio Gomez here, and I am at Calvin College this weekend, Friday and Saturday. I arrived Friday, and today's Saturday. I'll be here for another couple hours and then heading back to Chicago. And I'm here with Joel Swartz. Hey Joel, how are you? Joel is the Director of Exhibitions for the gallery here called the Center Art Gallery at Calvin College. And the reason I'm here is because he invited me for an exhibition, and something that was kind of special and pretty cool is a live drawing, which we finished last night, and I want to show you the drawing, and then we're going to go inside the gallery, look at the show, and talk to Joel, and he can tell us some things about the gallery, how it runs, and what are the upcoming exhibitions and so forth.
Yeah, great.
How's that? So let's take a walk. All right, so we're coming in, and so what building are we at, Joe?
We're in the Fine Arts Center of the college. Yep. So in the Center Art Gallery side of the gallery, and then we have this hallway gallery over here, which is it's an additional space that we like to use with individual artists. It's open to the public, and so it's got great visibility. And so this was a space that, when I talked to Sergio about the potential of doing a live drawing performance, it sort of came to mind as being that he could interact with the public, would fit really well with other performances that you've done, other drawing performances.
Right.
And so, yeah, we got this set up for Friday. The drawing started on Friday and worked into the late hours on Friday night. A little bit of touch-up maybe, and some spray fixative, and we got the finished product here, which has been great. We've been getting some good reaction to it, and Sergio's had some great response.
Awesome. Thanks, Joe. Well, I'm going to show you the artwork. So here, it's a 4-panel drawing. It's on paper. Each panel is about 60 inches wide by probably 70 or 80 something inches high. And so all the 4 panels are together. I will have a video of the process of making the drawing, which I will post in social media probably tonight. And you can see kind of the progression of the drawing. It's kind of about the cycle of life, and that's pretty nice that Joe, he said this is the wall, and you do whatever you want. So that's kind of nice that it gave me open reign to work on something, and then expect to see what happens.
Yeah.
So on the left side of the panel, there's like youthfulness, and it was kind of cool because while I was doing the drawing, there were the kids that came through the building, and I had them help me to with some drawing. So like some of the stars and some of these things are actually kids who drew it, and they participated in the drawing. So that was pretty nice. As this was kind of like the youthfulness panel with the leaves and the plants coming out of the body of this small child. And then moving towards the left, the second panel, where again there's a secondary figure kind of in reverse. All my figures are faceless. I like to make them more universal so that people can identify with the shape, the form of the figure. All these are male, kind of because they are very close to my own size figure, and related to my experience. So here's the second panel, again, transitions of life, perhaps fears and all the experiences that we encounter as we go through our growth process. And I would say
adolescence.
Every change that happens through that, and youthfulness. And I would say this is kind of like the central panel when we are at our prime of life, that probably happens at different ages to different people. But here the central figure is perfectly symmetrical. It's in a pose that's strong, and there's like all this light coming out of that. And then on the last panel, it's kind of the transition from this life to the next. So here the leaves are kind of more like drying or dead in some sort. There's a tree trunk, the tree has been chopped or cut off, and then there's a figure where almost like ghost-like figure, but with a glow within the inside. So then kind of completing this transition, instead of being from left to right, somehow I ended up going from right to left, because I think as we get older, when we think about these things, we think in progression. We look back at life versus forward to it. So it's like looking back at life, as we get closer to the end of life, and it's it's a natural cycle of life, of going through it. So,
and I thought one of the things that I really enjoyed was seeing how you work, Sergio, by putting down sort of these grids and these circles that really rooted each one of the 4 panels, then filling them in, and then coming back afterwards and then erasing, right? So drawing through removal, and that last panel in particular is great because of that sort of this the remnants of that final person there, all just from working and taking the charcoal off the paper. So it has a real nice ethereal quality to it. And then the panel next to it, you get this real sort of this energy, right? The figure is plugged in with these cords, these dark charcoal cords that come in, and then these sort of waves of light are coming out, and that's the removal process again of the charcoal using the eraser. So it's a wonderful process to see that happen. How the drawing is 2 stages really. It's the drawing of adding material to the surface, and then the drawing of removing material from the surface.
That's correct. Yeah. And it was really interesting to see people coming through, because if you can see, there's an open hallway. So people coming through and engaging in conversation about the first question is, what is it going to be? And I always say, we have to come back and see it, because I don't even know what's going to be at the end. But and it's fun because, as you said, it's a 2-part process. So sometimes people will come and only see the first part, but then when they come back again, then they see all the secondary drawing by erasing, when the piece completely takes on a whole different life. It's almost like it creates a completely different drawing from what they saw the first time around. What they appear to be almost finished.
Yeah. So do you feel in some ways, since you were referring to the central character over here, it takes on that persona of yourself. Is that why, in some ways, the drawing is really rooted in that stage, because you see yourself, this is the stage of life you're in?
Maybe on an unconscious level. Maybe not as a conscious choice, but I think probably, as I think of my age, of course, we never know when it's our last day, right? But I think looking at statistically and so forth, I'm kind of half of my life if I were a statistic.
The prime of your life, right?
Exactly. So. That's the idea.
I like also too that there's this the undulating wave sort of feel to this, right? So that's even if the composition starts on the left-hand side with sort of old age, it's rising up and then kind of moving through. So there's this nice continuity in the way that the drawing moves your eye across from left to right and from right to left.
Yeah, and that was kind of a challenge to, as I started the drawing, I started with geometric shapes. And then creating the flow. So the circles kind of became the first things that I drew before I even knew how the figures were going to be in, or what it was going to be about. I just and then the whole composition kind of was built onto that structure, which I really like. I see it almost as architecture. You start with the framework, and then that's what supports the work afterwards.
The skeletal structure.
Exactly, which for me kind of works nice, because then as I work and improvise, I can always pull in on those geometric encounters that are happening, the intersections that are happening already in the juxtaposition of shapes.
So I would ask you a question in terms of like the duration. So something like this takes you about 8 hours. Is that a good average sort of for something of this scale?
Well, only when it's a live performance.
Right. When you're not devoted fully to the drawing.
Right. Yeah. So in the studio, I don't work this fast. I think there's a certain energy that happens when you're doing a live drawing.
And you have a deadline.
You have a deadline, right? And people expect something. I think there's a certain energy that you get from the interaction with people that in the studio is different. Not that one is better than the other, but it's just a different process. So in the studio, I don't have the rush. I can take my time. I can go back and forth. but here the time, the presence of people, and the space kind of all gives you a certain adrenaline, I would say.
Yeah.
You know, that it just keeps you engaged and just keeps going.
It motivates you. There's sort of a desire to show the viewer
right
how it's working and want them to come back to see the finished product.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And I think that's one of the elements of performance. You know, that the audience has a role, even if they're just looking.
Yeah.
You know, that's a role in itself, and there's a feed that comes to it. And since my work is it's a lot about presence, the presence of the figure, you know, having the presence of actual people in the process, it brings something that I cannot get in the studio.
Yeah. But it's much different.
It's different,
than your studio-based work.
Exactly, yeah.
Which is in some ways more measured.
Exactly, right. Yeah, more calculated, and you know, I can do more editing.
Yeah.
While here, once it's done, it's done.
Well, I think what the nice thing is about this drawing, though, is that it does show that there's a continuity between the work that you do in your studio and your live performance. So there is a continuity in the aesthetic of the figure that you are also doing in your studio work, and it's not radically different.
Right.
It's just created in a very different atmosphere,
exactly.
And conditions are different.
Are different. Yeah. Right. Great. Well, why don't we walk inside the gallery space? And Joe, maybe as we walk inside, you can tell us a little bit about the beautiful gallery here that you have, that you direct here at Calvin College. The gallery is called Center Art Gallery.
So there's 3 spaces here in the gallery.
Okay.
The space that we walk into here is the permanent collection gallery. So this is work that the college owns, and this is open year-round.
Okay.
And we change this space once a year and feature a variety of different works that the college has in the permanent collection, which is a collection that now numbers about just under 2,000 works right now.
Okay.
And the focuses in that collection range from I would say like local regional artists from West Michigan and from Michigan, as well. We actively collect work from our graduates.
Okay.
And our faculty members, and then we have a number of we have a contemporary collection as well as a few other religious collections. So one of our major collections is a collection of work on the Prodigal Son.
Okay.
So it's work by a variety of artists that have worked with that subject matter. Another collection that we have that we just started is called the Donna Spahn Contemporary Collection, which focuses on work based on the theme of light.
Nice.
And so those are 2 of the sort of sub-collections that we're really developing and trying to build. Great. And then we have 2 spaces. We have a large temporary space, and then we have a smaller temporary space. And Sergio's show Transitional Dwellings is in the smaller of the temporary spaces. It's about 25 by 25 feet with 8-foot ceilings. And it's connected right to the permanent gallery and to the larger space next to us as well. Right. The larger space is about 30 by 60. With 17-foot ceilings, and then the light atrium that goes up 25 feet.
It's a beautiful light.
It's a really wonderful, flexible space.
How big is this gallery space right here?
This is 30 feet by 60 feet.
Wow, that's really nice. So what's the rotation of exhibitions in these 2 spaces? Because
we're affiliated with the college, the changing exhibitions, they occur in conjunction with the academic calendar. So we're working September through May. And we do a variety of different shows at the gallery, including our seniors who graduate in May. We do a show in May of the graduating seniors.
Okay.
So, we're looking forward to, actually that's a show I really enjoy, working with the seniors and seeing what they, which is sort of the culmination of their 4 years as they prepare to move on. It's always a fun show to look forward to every year. The other reason that I really like this space, the smaller of the galleries, is that it's a very manageable space to work with an individual artist. So I find that I'm reaching out and finding individual artists to work within this space, the smaller of the 2 spaces. And finding Sergio and having your work in here was a great match. I think we got the right amount of work for this space.
Beautiful, yeah.
Some of the larger colorful works, which are studio based, like we were just talking about, and then another live drawing piece that you did just this last year in the fall. which is larger than the one in the gallery that we have. But again, another great example of how you work in a different mode and draw in a little bit of a different subject matter than the paintings.
Exactly, which is a great that you have a painting on the side and then the drawing itself right next to it.
So how long did this larger piece here take you when you did this at Dordt College?
So this was done at Dordt, and it was a 10 hour.
10 hours.
Yeah, the one outside that we just talked about, that was just about 8 hours.
Yep.
From what I calculated. This one was 10 hours. So I had a little bit more time. And yeah, it was a completely different approach on this one, where the day I did this drawing was September 11th. So the way I started this piece was with an image of September 11, and from there then the evolution of the image became about all these things that are happening in the news, starting with September 11, the refugee crisis and pollution and et cetera, going on and on and on. And then on the right-hand side panel, right where where we got the oil spill before that, and then the famous drones, right? There's a presence of light. So on this side, there's not much of a figure, though it's a vague figure maybe, but it's presence of light. So the title of this piece is "The Light of Hope." And in my work, even in the gloominess of the works, to me there's always a way to find light and hope, and this panel kind of represents that.
Yeah, and it's a wonderful use of that technique, right? Where you're working against the charcoal which has been laid on there to bring the light out. It's almost like you're bringing the paper back out to the surface. And I think for people who haven't seen you work, or they haven't seen someone work that way, it's really remarkable. It seems like in some ways it's really logical, right? It's a logical way to work, but quite remarkable the way that sort of really breathes life into something that you've worked on that has all this blackness that's applied to it. And I love the way then that it just kind of emanates out of this landscape here. This brightness kind of comes out of it. It almost sort of like blows out of the surface, right? It's obscuring the drones. It's sort of like washing them away.
That's right, yeah. Thanks, Joel. So let me ask you this. How long have you been here at the gallery, managing the galleries?
So I've been here since 2003, so for 13 years.
Oh, wow.
And the space here is only about 6 years old. We moved from another space that was on the other side of campus in the art department. So, and we doubled the space that we had from the other space in the art department. And I think one of the benefits of being over here is that the gallery now is much more of a college-wide gallery because it's in the Fine Arts Center. More approachable to the public. And I think more approachable for the students, so that a nursing student, for example, or an English student might be more inclined to interact with the visual arts.
Exactly.
Yeah, which is, I think, a real, as opposed to a commercial gallery, I think educational-based galleries, we have, not only are we interested in obviously exposing our audience to art, but we're working in terms of how can we integrate that into learning.
Right.
So
wonderful.
Yeah.
And it was kind of really nice working yesterday in the drawing to talk to people and students from all different disciplines. Not only art students, which was kind of nice.
Right.
And one last question, Joel. So, how do you find exhibitions? Do you have also a submission process if artists or curators would like to submit an idea for this beautiful space? How does that work?
Well, we do it. So we have an exhibition committee that meets on a regular basis to go over proposals that we receive from artists, and we're usually trying to work about 1 to 2 years in advance. And so I think that's also a good thing for artists to know.
Yeah.
And that is, we're planning sort of further out than I think some people have that immediacy, right?
Right.
Can I talk to you about maybe this fall? And we're always trying to work further in advance because it benefits our schedule. And so I think that's a great thing for artists to know, is that most galleries are really trying to work in advance, and so you should be thinking in terms of talking to them about a year or a year and a half or 2 years from now. But always be ready for that immediate opportunity, right? Because we have cancellations as well.
Exactly, yeah.
And so that's, so that's a good thing to keep in mind. So I get my shows from a variety of methods.
Okay.
And one of them is word of mouth.
Right.
It's that network that I've built up of other artists that I know who tell me, you should look at this artist.
Right.
Or they tell an artist friend of theirs, you should get in contact with this gallery director. So those are a number of ways that we get it. We get it from people telling us who we should look at, and also from friends and colleagues saying, this person should talk to you.
Right.
And then the other way that we do that also is that if people contact us, we can tell them, this is what we require for you to submit to us. And we will be looking at these applications in the fall, or we'll be looking at these applications in the spring. So people are certainly welcome to contact me via the website, calvin.edu/Center Art Gallery.
Okay. Fantastic. Well, just to close, I want to again thank you, Joe, for your time. Thank you for the exhibition and for giving us kind of a quick tour of the space, telling us how wonderful the exhibitions run here. It's really a beautiful space. I love the light. I think it's a nice stop. If you are in Grand Rapids, definitely stop and check it out. Yeah. Because I think you will have a great experience. So thanks again.
Yeah, thank you, Sergio.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll be in touch, and we'll have to take our show down pretty soon.
Yeah, we do. Time to close up.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for watching. We'll see you later. Bye.